What's going on, guys? Today I'm back with another Diablo 4 Season 2 Endgame build guide, and today we're going to go over Cold Sorcerer. Now this build primarily revolves around using Ice Shards, however we do use Blizzard and Frozen Orb sort of as supporting skills to boost the damage of our Ice Shards even more. I have cleared many T100s with this already, so it's pretty well optimized for that content. I did also kill Uber Lilith with probably what is not even a perfectly optimized setup, so if that's something you're interested in, you can also do that. And then for endgame content, this should breeze through that pretty easily, generally, since that content is already pretty easy as it is. So we're going to get into all of these stuff from these skills, Paragon board gear, and Vampiric Powers. Before we get into everything though, I just want to thank you all for watching as always, and please make sure to like, share, comment, or subscribe if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful. So let's get right into the build. Alright, so jumping into the skill tree, we are starting out with 2 points into Firebolt. We are mostly using Firebolt for the enchantment effect. We want to be able to have burning applied to enemies as we get extra damage and damage reduction if stuff is burning. We also need a source of fire damage for Tal Rasha's. So this is the source of fire damage for us. Down here we have 1 point into Frozen Orb. Frozen Orb is going to be our second enchantment. Every time you're casting Ice Shard, you have a chance to proc Frozen Orb, and this is going to proc pretty often. We need this for the chill effect that it gives, since Ice Shards does not have an inherent chill effect to it. And we need chill because we get a lot of damage reduction and damage amplification versus chilled enemies, similar to the burning effect from Firebolt. So this is one source of chill for the build, and then we also have Blizzard as another source of chill. This will also help to apply Firebolt enchantment a lot faster, which is pretty nice. And then one of the bigger reasons we are also using this is because it helps to stagger bosses faster. We have most of our damage while the boss is staggered, so we want to be able to stagger them as fast as possible. And the extra frozen orbs that you get that proc will help to chill the boss a lot faster. And then for ice shards, we have it maxed out, and we take greater ice shards just for the active bonuses that we get while barriers are active, which is a ricochet effect as well as more damage. Over here, this is just more damage, and then this is more resist. We have 1 point into Flame Shield, 1 point into Teleport, and 1 point into Ice Armor. That's all you need for those. Glass Cannon for more damage, and then Elemental Attunement to be able to reset the cooldown on your defensives. 1 point is all you need here, and this will still proc pretty often. And then for Frost Nova, we are taking the Vulnerable, just because whenever you press this, everything around you is pretty much going to die immediately. So you just want to make sure you have Vulnerable up for when you press this. 3 points into Precision Magic just for extra lucky hit chance. These two here are just extra defensives with more uptime. They give you a little bit of extra DR, which is nice to have. This skill node here is going to be the main source of barrier for the build. So whenever we press a cooldown, like our defensives, we're going to get a nice little barrier. And what the barrier does, it gives us a lot of damage amplification, as well as a little bit of defensive benefit. So this is very important to the build. Icy Veil is going to extend the barriers that we get from this, so this is very nice to have. And then I have 1 point into Snap Freeze just for a small extra chance to proc a freeze instantly. 1 point into Blizzard. We're using Blizzard, like I mentioned, just for the chill, since Ice Shards does not have a chill. This is going to help to stagger bosses faster, and this is also very nice to engage packs. You can just drop a couple Blizzards and then have a little bit of extra armor as well as chill, so you get the DR from that. And then you just go in and start killing stuff as it starts freezing. Over here we have all these points maxed out. These three are just extra damage, so very important to have. And then this just gives you a chance to get a little bit of extra mana. We have Fiery Surge just for more mana. Since stuff is going to be burning when it dies, we get more mana uptime from this. And then for the key passive, I went with Avalanche over Shatter. For my play testing, I didn't feel like Shatter was very impactful, mostly because stuff dies pretty often, like before it's even frozen, so you're not always getting a benefit from Shatter. This is going to help you with mana. I think it's a little bit better for single target. and it has pretty decent uptime on the proc. So I liked this one better than this one overall. And I would say that's pretty much it for the skill tree. Alright guys, let's dive into the Paragon board now. So on this starting board here, I have these two clusters maxed out just for a little bit of extra max life mostly, as well as the resistances. Um, with the way my gear is set up right now, I'm only running one defensive aspect. So I tried to pick up as much defensives as I could in the Paragon board, just to kind of make up for the lack of defensive aspects. For the glyph, we are running destruction. This is going to give us a lot of extra multiplied damage as we're critting stuff. More resistances here, and then the non-physical damage here is pretty important for the legendary node here, which is going to scale off of our bonus damage with cold, which we get from non-physical damage. So we're going to get as much non-physical damage as we can throughout the Paragon board. Onto our next board here, which is Icefall. So the way I have this set up right now is that I wanted to be able to grab this legendary node as well as this cluster over here. Um, so we're pathing over through these two little clusters. This is just more damage to chilled enemies, and then this is more DR from chilled enemies. The legendary node, which gives us more damage while stuff is vulnerable. And then I wanted to grab this cluster over here, mostly for this extra chill application that we see here. So the build as I was playtesting mostly lacked on single target. So I wanted to grab this just to be able to stagger bosses a little bit faster. So I can get a lot of my damage in that big burst window. And then over in the glyph socket, I have Unleash right now. We don't really need the mana that much from this. I'm just mostly running this for the extra multiplied damage that it gives. Um, and it also gives us a little bit of extra DR as well as damage to chilled enemies. I also tried in this socket, I tried Frostbite. However, I felt like this was giving me better damage on a boss. So I liked this one better. And then the other one is Winter. Winter's pretty good for like killing trash and stuff, but this has absolutely no effect on a boss. And like I mentioned, the build's biggest weakness is single target damage, like a Nightmare Dungeon boss. So I felt like this was probably the best option to help with that. I would say this is pretty much the flex glyph slot. I would say the other ones are all pretty much lock-ins. Um, so yeah, I went with Unleash here, and I did test out a couple other ones. Over to the next board is Enchantment Master. I have it set up like this just to grab some extra non-physical damage for our legendary node. And then in this glyph we have Elementalist, which is going to give us extra resist, non-physical damage, and multiplied damage. So we get inherently, we're going to get extra fire and cold, which is a baseline 10% extra multiplied damage. And then the lightning damage we get from pretty much only teleport. Uh, so the only important playstyle, I guess, difference with when you're playing this glyph is that you should probably, like on bosses, be teleporting on cooldown onto the boss because it'll give you an extra 5% multiplied damage. Pathing on to the next board, we are in the Burning Instinct board. And this one I have control, and I have this maxed out to give us the max amount of crowd control damage. This is probably the best glyph for the build, so you want to make sure you have this. And then we just get some extra DR here and some extra additive damage here. On to the fifth board, which is the Searing Heat board. We're only coming through here for some extra resists. And then we have Exploit Socketed just to give us more multiplied damage. And then the last board is Frigid Fate. In this one we have Flame Feeder, which is going to give us more multiplied damage when stuff is burning. Some extra cold resist. We don't really need this here. We're just coming over here for the extra dex. And then we path out over here for some extra additive vuln damage onto our legendary node. And that is pretty much the Paragon board. Jumping into the gear and powers. This power setup here is pretty much what I will be running almost exclusively, with the exception of bosses. I will swap out one power. So we're running Infection to be able to get the poison damage for Talrashas, which is going to give us more multiplied damage. We're running Ravenous for attack speed, Prey on the Weak for vulnerable from our curses. These two are going to apply the curses for us. We're also running Metamorphosis to be able to get Unstoppable for Tybalt's Will, which is going to give us more damage. And then on bosses, I'll take out a Cursed Touch since it doesn't really do anything on a boss, and I'll put in Domination instead just to give us more damage while the boss is staggered. And that is the only swap I will make there. As far as gear goes, there are a couple of options you can swap out, and I'll point them out as we get there. So for the helmet, I'm always running Godslayer. This is an insane amount of damage, so try to get this if you can. It's very, very good. On the chest, I have Disobedience for extra armor, and then all these DR stats. You really need to have total armor on the chest, so try to get that if you can. For the gloves, I'll run two different aspects. For the majority of the dungeon, I'll be running this, mostly because we need it to clear trash faster. It gives your ice shards a piercing effect. However, on a boss, this does absolutely nothing, so I'll swap it out for my other gloves. And on this one, I have Storm Swell, which is going to give me more damage to vulnerable enemies while I have a barrier. Now remember, we get barrier from ice armor, as well as whenever we use a cooldown from one of our skill tree nodes. So this is going to give you overall more damage on a boss. As far as stats go on the gloves, you really need crit chance and ranks to ice shards, and then I would say everything else is pretty much even. The lucky hit chance to restore a resource is pretty decent. Lucky hit chance is good, and then I would say attack speed is also pretty good as far as stats on the gloves go. On the pants, we're running Tybalt's, just to give us more damage and mana regen. Over the boots, you can run either of these two here. I tested out Penitent and Essu's Heirloom. I like Penitent more overall just because it helps to stagger the bosses faster and you get multiplied damage from it. However, this does give you more crit, and the build right now is pretty low on crit. I'm only at 32.8. So you can run either of these two and still be okay, like if you don't have one or the other. I would just say overall for my play testing, I liked Penitent a lot more. I'm running a staff because I don't feel like I need an extra aspect. I like the inherent stat on the staff a lot better, where you get the damage to crowd-controlled enemies. And you also get a 100% boost to whatever aspect you put on here. So right now I have on control, which if I had a max roll would give me an extra 35% multiplied damage versus immobilized thunder frozen enemies. So this is going to give you a lot of extra damage when bosses are staggered. And as far as stats go, I would say intelligence and all stats are pretty good. A lot of the stats on the staff are now like just additive. So it doesn't really matter what you get, just try to get something that works for the build more or less. And then for gems, we're running crit strike damage to vulnerable enemies. On our first ring, we have Taut Rashas. We have 4 different types of elemental damage right now. We're getting cold from our main abilities, we're getting fire from the burning enchant, we're getting poison from the vampiric power, and then we're getting lightning from teleport. With teleport, all you have to do is teleport onto something once, and then you'll just keep refreshing that buff with your other abilities, so you don't have to worry about it after that. On our other ring, we are running a conceited aspect. This gives me more damage while I have a barrier active. So when we have a barrier from ice armor or our other defensives, we're going to get more damage up, which is very nice. The most important stat you want on here is crit chance, and I would say resource gen is also pretty good. Similar to the staff, a lot of the stats on here are pretty additive, so it doesn't really matter what you have for the most part. Just really make sure you have crit. Max life is also pretty good, just to make you a little bit more tankier, or lucky hit chance. And then the neck is, this is another slot where you can change it up if you want. So I'm running right now for an aspect, I'm running Edge Masters just to give me more damage. However, I was also running for a little while an extra defensive with Ever Living. Either of these two is okay. If you feel like you want to be a little bit more tankier, you can absolutely run this. However, I found that generally if you're playing smart, you don't really need the extra defensive, and you can just kill stuff pretty fast. So I went with Edge Masters exclusively. And then for stats on the neck, you really want total armor because we only have one defensive, so you really need to get as much armor as possible. That's why I'm also running 3 skulls for the extra armor. Um, DR is also pretty good. You really need mana cost reduction just because we're trying to spam ice shards as much as possible. So you want to have that mana cost reduction on there. And then just try to get a rank to any like damage skill node from the tree, like Glass Cannon or any of these down here. Right now I have Frost, which is probably, I think, the best one, so that's pretty good. Icy Touch, I would probably say is probably the second one, or Glass Cannon. Just keep in mind Glass Cannon is going to make you take more damage also if you get more ranks to it. Elemental Dominance is also okay. And that pretty much covers the gear and the powers. I have a T100 Renegade's Retreat that I'm just going to let play here for the rest of the video, just so you guys can see how the build plays in a T100 as well as the boss. Um, I hope you guys enjoy the build. If you guys have any questions, as always, please just let me know or leave a comment down below, and I will try to get back to it as soon as possible. If you did enjoy the video or find it helpful, please like, share, comment, or subscribe, as it would help me out a lot. So thank you very much. Other than that, though, I will be talking to you guys in the next video, so I will see you all soon. Later.